So, namaste, namaskar, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Anushka, for joining us on this very day of Unplastic that we have committed to join in. So thank you so much for joining in.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you. So, also welcome to everyone. Namaskar, hola, to all of you who are joining in from different parts of the country, around the globe. I know today is a day of celebration. Today is a day of colors. And today is a day of life that re-envisages, especially in the cultures that we all come from. It is a point from where, from tomorrow, we see as a life of changing. We see as a life of spring. We see as a life which envisions and brings the change in everyone. So thank you so much also to join in as our commitment. As I was speaking with Anushka ji just a minute back while she joined in, she said that despite having the celebrations that we all do, commitment is a commitment. And carrying forward the words that she said, that commitment is a commitment, exactly the reason why Youth of India Foundation back in 2019, when we called for a global Unplastic Day in the United Nations General Assembly, supported by all the heads of states, the ambassadors, for the September 17th, we realized that the importance is that we celebrate Unplastic Day, the 17th of every month. And it should not just become a day, but it should become like the continuous process of actions that young people from across the world take together. And indeed, it is a pleasure, it is a moment of pride to share that as a co-founder of the Unplastic Day, we have had more than 1 million young people from across the world who have committed to Unplastic Day. And apart from that, there have been a lot of institutionals, more than 1,000 plus institutions, educational institutions from across the globe who are celebrating Unplastic Day, just not as a day, but doing sustainable actions. There are institutions who have completely stopped using single-use plastic in their campus because of our call for Unplastic Day. And as a call for Unplastic Day, to just give an overview to the viewers for joining in, we celebrate a day of 17th every month to take forward the actions that had happened in the last 30 days and to commit ourselves for the next 30 days and onwards. And in that process, it is a checkpoint of 17th for every month to bring in people like Anushka ji, to bring in people like her, who not only represent sustainability in their daily life, but also influence a group of people across the country and around the globe whose commitment would only take it forward. So thank you so much once again, Anushka ji, for joining in.
My pleasure.
So to give a brief about Miss Anushka, Anushka Shrestha is the title holder of Miss World Nepal 2019. And apart from coming from the world of glamour, she's also the CEO and the co-founder of Makwizi, if I'm not pronouncing it, Makwizi. And we will get back to what it means later. A Nepali luxury brand, desert brand specifically aiming to put a unique taste of Nepali deserts on the international culinary map. She also is the regional manager for Nepal for AUC and Australian Public University. A commerce graduate, Anushka ji is a social entrepreneur, and I add a sustainable ambassador and an avid learner. She completed her bachelor's degree from Sydney, Australia, and is passionate about capacity development. So once again, to all our viewers, let's have a big round of applause, digital applause for Anushka ji. And now we would have Anushka ji to hear it from her, about her journey, if you would like to make some opening remarks. Anushka ji, over to you.
Thank you very much for having me over. It is really great to be on a platform that is run and led by an organization not only of passionate youth with whom I share personal values that we all agree on, but also to understand that it is a group that started by helping Nepal when it needed it the most. From the 2015 earthquake, if I'm not mistaken, is where this relation with Nepal really started. And we're really, really glad to have neighbors that, come together to help in need, even the youth members that did everything that they could from where they are to do what they can. And I think that really is the essence of what has brought us together here as well. From your 2015 campaign, which was the pocket money campaign, which was basically every person saying, I will do what I can from where I stand with what I have. And that has been truly my motto in life, in anything and everything that we do, is start where you are, do what you can with what you have. So when we talk about on plastic day or sustainability, it seems like such big things to be talked about. And of course, there has to be bigger changes. There are bigger players in the market, and then there are individuals such as ourselves as well. And it requires effort from top down and bottom up both. But the essence of it still remains that we've got to do what we can from where we are, and we've got to start with what we have. And every person has this certain circle of influence which they have a certain control over. It might seem like, okay, somebody has more Instagram followers, that is their influence, but anybody anywhere truly has their own area of influence. So we all can actually do something. Bigger companies can perhaps do bigger things, but every individual can do something which has an equal impact in making the kind of change that we all aspire to achieve.
When you're talking about how we came, a lot of the members who are joining in, of course, are aware that we started our journey back from 2015, like Anushka ji mentioned, and it gives us a sense of happiness to relieve. It's a sense of nostalgia that we started a journey with a no, and that no took as a new opportunity. And of course, while we were also contributing for Nepal, we realized that it is so important with what you said, to start where you are, to do what you can with whatever you have. I think this essence is only what brings young people together. And thank you so much for standing up for such values that we see that, you would be those ambassadors to lead young people with not just your influence, but also with your vision and such clear-headed idea for sustainability. Moving forward, Anushka ji, would you like to share more about, because you represent two different worlds altogether. One is the world of glamour, influence, if I'm not wrong to say, and the other is, when you're also the co-founder and the CEO of this company, and while we were talking, you also told about the sustainability aspect, which of course will come afterwards. So could you explain more and help us understand more about it?
So these two fields that definitely at first glance, they seem two different worlds altogether. But for me, I see it very much well aligned. Well, I am 26 years old right now. And when we were 17, 18, inching towards adulthood, I really saw two types of people. One who had a very clear vision and idea of what they wanted to be and what they wanted to do in life, and others who were still figuring it out. For the longest time, I was still a part of the latter, still figuring it out. And at times I feel like I still am. But although this career graph right now, if I am to look at my career graph from starting high school, from high school, I went up to study commerce, and then I worked in a wide range of jobs, as you do when you're trying to live in a foreign country. Then from banking, went on to leave all of it and come to participate in a pageant, which doesn't seem to make sense. And then from pageantry to now a desserts line, that too a halwai, as we call it out here, right? That just seems very haphazard. But for me, the past few years have been clearer than ever. Of course, there's still a long way to go, in the sense that I believe in capacity building. I feel that is truly my passion, enabling people and opportunities to become the best that they can. I feel that in turn, it enriches me to become the best that I can. So that's the whole idea of capacity building. And that is what I think is common with these two fields that otherwise seem too far off. Also along the same lines, I feel like my pageantry journey, which started before my entrepreneurial journey, I looked at pageant as very much as an entrepreneurship venture as well. And I feel like I look at my business right now from a pageant lens too. What I mean is, when I was doing the pageant, for me on the outskirts, of course, it seems like heels and makeup and glamour. But for me, it was like, okay, you have a goal and then you have limited resources to make that goal happen. For example, it was the international representation. So you have limited time, you have limited resources, and you've got a goal to achieve. So how you manage the resources available to you to make that goal happen was the part of pageantry that I enjoyed the most. It just happened to be heels and makeup. Similarly, in entrepreneurship, of course, every day is about using the resources available to you to reach a vision that you planned by. And those resources could be time, could be money, could be yourself, and could be the people around you. So you're basically utilizing resources to achieve a desired goal. So that is what I see is very common. And what I see, what has really helped me in my entrepreneurial journey right now, because we do aspire to present Nepali desserts as an authentic luxury brand. Because I mean, as a citizen of India, I'm sure the whole line of desserts and sweets, it is so well represented. It's reached globally. It has a global scale. And we feel like we could do that and we should do that for authentic Nepali recipes as well. That is getting endangered, that you won't see anymore if it's not preserved at this stage. And we focus a lot on our packaging and our presentation as well, as much as we focus on what's inside. So I think that is a learning from pageantry, because in pageantry as well, in beauty contests, as they're called, I prefer to call them pageantry. It is so much about the external looks as well, but it's not just about that. You've got to hold your core, because if you look mesmerizing and spectacular, but the moment you open your mouth to say what's in the inside, if it doesn't hold up to the external expectations that you built up from the exterior, doesn't match up, right? So that's what I feel like we're trying to do in our business, is that yes, we understand that in today's world, the outside definitely gets the attention. So let us use that to our advantage, but the inside's got to hold up to the expectations that the outside brings around. So that is how I see myself in those two spheres.
This is so inspiring to hear from you. Taking back of what you said, uh, the top down and the bottom up approach. This is like the amalgamation of the outside and the inner capacities that has to be brought together in such a way that it is not over projected, and when it is also projected, it is not under projected in a way. And hearing from you, with it gets back to what we did in economics as a student. A lot of young people who would also be joining in. She also talked about the optimum utilization of resources, be it the time, be it the money, be it the resources that surround her, because she has to achieve something, some desired goal with so many limited resources. And that can only happen when you have a clear-cut vision, as and then I think when you have an understanding of what you want. But Anushka ji, when you were mentioning about everything, one thing that which intrigued me as well was about the packaging. And as you also stand for sustainability, would you also like to share how you're bringing both those fields together, sustainability and the packaging? Because the World Report says that about 30% of the products which are packaged, are waste, and only the 70% are the places which are actually used and consumed or would be required. So how do you see that with your brand and your packaging?
That was definitely one of the initial values that we said we wanted to build our startup on. I think we have many luxuries as a startup, right? You can do things when you start, you have all the luxury and the freedom to actually make decisions that stand for your value. Now that absolutely, in very practical terms, I feel like nobody would choose correctness over convenience. That is one thing very realistically. So no matter how much we talk about it, nobody would really compromise if you're very uncomfortable doing something and it doesn't give you immediate relief, and you've got to choose a decision that is right but really uncomfortable, perhaps for a sustainable time. Then it is very difficult to convince not just individuals but companies as a whole to make that right decision. So in those terms, our packaging had to be a very big part of our product. And as we know, for food consumables, a lot of these things come in plastic, right? And there are different grades of plastic. But talking about Nepal, in my research, I couldn't really find a wide range of biodegradable items that were very much available. Also, we started the business during COVID, which meant that import was difficult as well. And of course, having locally sourced resources, even packaging, means that you're leaving a lesser of a carbon footprint. So that was also an angle. One of the decisions I think which was key was, we're starting up. So if a container costs us ₹5, and then a reusable container such as a glass container, or a recyclable plastic container would cost us 4 times as more. It is very difficult for a starting person to say that, you know what, I'm going to make the right decision as opposed to the decision that would help my company the most. But that is really, I think, where we were very much fixated on. That is where our values are. Yes, there are a few things that we can't do at this stage, but the vision always has to be, you've got to start, right? We hear of so many big companies that started with convenience, because of course they wouldn't compromise with the comfort of things, but now they're having to backtrack things. They're having to say, okay, we've got to move back now, because we've already sold something perhaps for cheaper because of a non-recyclable packaging, but now we've got to move back. So now we've got to convince our customers for a more expensive product as well. So how do we do this? So backtracking and moving forward is always difficult. So in our packaging, we're very proud that it is very much recyclable. We use, for our paper packaging, we use recyclable boxes, which many people send us that they, we're Southeast Asian, we use as our medicine boxes and whatnot. And of course, we also intend to partner soon with a recycling company itself, so that if people have bought a lot of our products, they have a dedicated place to recycle. Similarly, for the jars, it was of the many things that are made in Nepal, glass jars are not. So it was a decision of, okay, do we want glass jars? That is more difficult to handle. It would have a more risk rate because it can break, right? As opposed to plastic, which won't. But what do we want to do? And we were very clear that, you know what, we're sticking to glass. So many people, one of the things that people have really started doing, of course, they store their things in those glass jars after they're done with the product, but they also grow plants, which is, they grow these sort of hydroponics, because they have they grow it in water, basically plants that grow in water. So seeing that really makes us happy that, you know what, we've embarked on the right decision. Of course, it might be difficult in places, but I truly feel passionately that being a little bit on the producer side of things now, I realize how much power we hold. If I am this like smallest part of a manufacturing unit, and there are very big manufacturing units, we talk on the consumer side, but again, perhaps people won't compromise as much comfort for convenience. But if that is the only option that you have, if a sustainable option, if a correct option is the only option that you have, then of course consumers will only consume that. What else would they consume?
This is absolutely true. While we were speaking with a lot of companies in India, especially we had the honor of making Domino's pizza brand in India, all of them to go eliminate the single-use plastic with their cutleries. And while we were speaking with them, this was the same problem that we realized was the backtracking and then moving forward. And of course, the entire factor as companies, as entrepreneurs also comes in is the cost factor. But there's also this understanding deep within that we also want to contribute for sustainability. We also want to make sure that the world that we live in now and the world that we are also going to give back for tomorrow's generation should be sustainable that way. And I'm so happy with the efforts that you, your team, your company is making in, not just using recycled products, because the entire larger idea that we hear from UN Secretary General is also that you don't have to do everything. You just need to inspire people around you to take such decisions. Now, when you talked about the hydroponic plants, the glass jars being used for the plants, growing of plants, it only shows that the people across the globe, around the communities are committed to sustainability. It is only that the first step should be shown and the first step of leadership should be taken. So, congratulations to you and the entire team for doing that.
Thank you.
Also understanding that today is a day of celebration and all of us be also in the mood of celebration. Quickly, we have 2 questions with people across and, we would put that from the terms of, in the perspective of audience. So one of the questions which came from Raj was that, Anushka ji, you come from also field where you are representing fashion, right? And you come from a field which also represent, as I was telling earlier, glamour, of course. But then, there's so much of wastage that is around you. There's so much of wastage, not just as collective, but in the individual's perspective as well. So how you as a person, you as an ambassador of sustainability, and you are also taking efforts in making sure that the sustainable development goals advance, how could we really bring a change in this entire, fashion industry in the lines of sustainability? Of course, there is happening, but how Have you been able to take some steps on that maybe?
That is very interesting. I think on a personal level, I've never been ashamed of repeating clothes, and I know it seems such a trivial thing to say, right? But really, the whole stigma around being seen in repeated clothes, it is something so simple, but it goes a really long way. I also feel like the thrifting culture has really taken up, and I'm so proud to see generations that are younger than me be very, very conscious. I have a younger sister, and she just thrift shops. It's a very conscious decision that she makes. So as we talked about earlier, there is a top down and a bottom up approach. So while the producers have a very large opportunity to make a larger impact, also we as consumers, when we consume products that we only find acceptable, that actually makes a very big change. My sister, for example, she refuses to buy a few brands because they're like, it's fast fashion. I do not believe in fast fashion, and they perpetuate fast fashion. So me just not buying this one t-shirt perhaps won't make a difference, but she's very much committed to that. And there are other options, and we do live in a market of supply and demand, right? So if we as consumers demand sustainable options, we say that, you know what, I am not going to buy from you if you believe in fast fashion, if you release these chemicals into these areas. We live in a world of information where this information is very much readily available. Of course, we've got to verify the sources of where they come from, but we have a lot of power as consumers. Where do you buy from? How much do you use it? There are so many little initiatives that are happening about perhaps renting an outfit, something that you won't use as much. There's renting an outfit, there's recycling of outfits, there's thrift culture has become so big. Just very recently, we have been doing very regular thrifts ourselves from the past winners of people who have represented Nepal at Miss World, the former Miss Nepal World Club. We regularly thrift to promote that, if people who are considered to be sort of ambassadors in the fashion industry, in the glamour industry, we're comfortable repeating clothes, and we buy clothes off of their thrift ourselves, and we're very proud to flaunt that. So those are the little steps that I feel really goes a long way. And yes, upcycling, recycling, not being ashamed of repeating clothes. It's such a trivial thing to say, but again, goes a very long way. And being a conscious consumer of which product will you buy and which won't you. I feel like that goes a long way, and that is something that I really practice in my life as well.
I mean, someone on the chat box that put that, I think your family, not just you, but your sister as well, comes from this. She was also Miss Nepal. Someone would put on the chat, if I'm not wrong.
No, she's not. She's not. I think she's more into the tech side of things. But yes, as a whole, we truly believe that every tihar, like the Diwali as you would call it, every tihar, we had this tradition, and it wasn't even a thought of sustainability at that point. But I realized it's a nice thing to do. I've lost one of my grandmothers, right? So we would take her saris, and one of the saris, and it could make 3 kurtas. So my mother, my sister, and myself, we would always make something out of one sari. So yes, it was upcycled fashion one, but also it was a very nice way to keep that memory going forward. So little list of things like that, I think, goes a long way.
When you talk about it, I think when you're speaking about for the last 20-25 minutes, we have realized that all what Youth of India Foundation stands for, all that Youth of India Foundation has been talking about at the national and international forums, you are the right representation. Because when you now talked about going back and coming forward, especially with the life cycle, of using the dress, of the upcycling of the sari as a kurta for all 3 of you, we just realized how important it is that we also carry the values and the principles which has been led by our generations earlier. And as young generation today, we take it forward in a way which creates an amalgamation of both of them and present how the world should be in the future as well. So thank you so much for that. Just quick last question, Anushka ji, and then we not have much time of yours as well. So would you like to have, would you like to share, is this on the chat box which had come, as a regional manager for an Australian public university, how do you think that, we could localize and implement sustainable development goals in Nepal along with you or with the other groups in the Australian public university that you're part of? Or is that already happening?
Definitely staying true to and abiding by sustainable development goals is something that is very important in all of our actions that we take as an institute. when we talk about a global versus a local connect, I feel like there are so many good practices to learn from. Good practices such as, again, it's things that might seem trivial. You know, we eat with our hands, we use water in the toilet as opposed to toilet paper. Perhaps those are the things that, especially post pandemic, and when we talk more about sustainability of things, we eat in leaves. You know, we use leaves as plates, and there was this situation where we also use dried leaves as like a bowl. It's called a bota that we call it, and we have a lot of momos in that as well. So that was something that perhaps, I think it was the UK, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere in Europe, that it was seen as a very bright and brilliant idea. So there are so many things that indigenous cultures, from cultures such as ours, that I feel that the Western world, so to say, takes inspiration from. It's really good to see that. And then there are so many things that we can learn from outside as well. In the global context of managing, these goals seem like something that are just signed in conventions, but how do you filter that down to practice? I feel like as people aspiring to become change makers or torchbearers of this change, we have to accept and understand the fact that most people will not compromise comfort for correctness. So how do we make correct comfortable is a thing that we really must think about. A very small example, we distributed AC merchandise, right? As universities do, you distribute so much merchandise. It is a very clear decision for me that we will only give merchandise that is recyclable. So we won't give away, you know, things that people would throw, a lot of plastic things, a lot of not just plastic, but single-use things, things that will most likely not be used. So we are looking at what will people really truly use, even the carry bags, you know, you give jute bags and things like that, things that will actually be reused for a purpose beyond just the merchandising. So I feel like little things like that really do make an impact. And again, it is about how do you make correct comfortable, because it is very unlikely that people will choose something that is so correct, and there are individuals that do that, and they're great, but not everybody can do that. So if we're looking to try and make an impact as big, it has to be a collective effort.
Right.
It has to be a collective effort for sure.
Correct. This is absolutely true. You're just taking forward with your last word. This has to be collective efforts. And this is exactly why young people from across the world have to come together in not just being the champions of sustainable development goals, in not just eliminating single-use plastic from our daily life, but also stand as torchbearers, also stand as ambassadors at local, at national, at state, at national, international levels, calling it an entire global approach, as Anushka ji said. The circle of life or the circle of bringing together has to be brought forward. With this, I would request Anushka ji to, maybe have final words which you would like to share with young people of India, youth of India, and the youth of Nepal, and all the young people who will be joining us later in the evening today.
Thank you very much for having me over. Whenever I used to get asked, oh, what role does the youth play as perhaps a late teen, I would always feel like, what is this undue pressure on the youth? Everyone is responsible for everything. Like, why is there so much pressure on the youth? Like, what do you think we have special? And now I realize that it is really that energy that we have, that ability and that access, because in many times we are very fortunate to have the learnings and the teachings from our generations above, but we still have that time to make an impact below. So we're positioned very well to make the kind of changes that we aspire to see. At times, it does get difficult, but that is where the collective effort does come in. So I'd like to say thank you to Youth of India for extending your helping hands as you've always done. That consistency is commendable because life happens. At this age, you're thinking of university, you have so many things that are going on. My mother always said, it's easier to start something. The difficulty is the consistency. Everybody starts something. Everyone's motivated when it starts. It's something new. It's something exciting. It's the consistency that matters. So seeing the consistency of your organization has really inspired, I'm sure, many viewers, including myself, that when there is a structure in place and when you are aligned to your vision, things can happen. So thank you very much again for your time. It is a collective effort. So let us always, as we said at the beginning, do what we can, start where we are with what we have. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anushka ji. I think, after hearing her remarks, there wouldn't be anything much that I would like to add on. But just on a lighter note to all the young people also, because, we are celebrating Holi, especially in the Southeast Asian part, and India and Nepal share the cultures, the shared cultures. why don't you order the international amazing dessert from Anushka ji's brand, and and have a great evening today. So let's all commit towards this Unplastic Day, as we are celebrating this Unplastic Day on 17th of every month. Let us just not let this be a day of talk. Let not this be a day of somewhere we tell that, we share pictures on social media telling that, yes, today is an Unplastic Day and I so and so commit for the cause. But let us take maybe one action today and inspire people around us that, yes, single-use plastic are harmful, not just for you, but also for the shared environment and everyone that we talk about. So with that, thank you so much, everyone, once again. Wishing you all a happy Holi and an Unplastic Day. Namaste. Om Shanti Shanti Om. Thank you. I